There was a time when home entertainment meant gathering around the television, not scrolling through endless streaming menus. And if you wanted to watch your favorite show later, you didn't just press record on your phone, you used a VCR. Video cassette recorders, or VCRs, were once the heart of every living room. These boxy machines recorded TV shows and movies onto magnetic tapes, letting you watch them whenever you wanted, a concept that was revolutionary back then. Families traded blank tapes, kids recorded Saturday morning cartoons, and movie nights often began with that familiar "Be Kind, Rewind" sticker. But like many great inventions, their time faded. By the early 2000s, DVDs took over, and by 2016, the last company still making VCRs finally shut down production. The era of the tape had officially ended. Then there was the unmistakable sound of dial-up internet, that crackly, robotic tune that meant you were connecting to the World Wide Web. In the 1990s, millions of homes used dial-up modems that connected through regular phone lines. The connection was slow, painfully slow by today's standards, but magical nonetheless. You could finally check your email, browse basic websites, or chat in early online rooms. But you couldn't use the phone while you were online, and downloading a single photo could take minutes. As faster broadband and Wi-Fi appeared, dial-up quietly disappeared, taking its strange noises and blinking lights with it. Before cloud storage and USB drives, there were floppy disks. Those little square disks were once the backbone of computer storage. Early versions were huge, 8 inches wide, but they soon evolved into the 5¼ inch and 3½ inch formats that defined the 80s and 90s. You could save school projects, games, or business files, all on just a few hundred kilobytes of space. It sounds tiny now, but back then, it was enough to change how we used computers. Eventually, floppy disks gave way to CDs, USB drives, and online storage, but they'll always hold a special place in the history of technology. Long before smartphones and instant messages, people carried pagers, also known as beepers. These small gadgets would buzz or beep whenever someone wanted to reach you. If your pager went off, you'd rush to find a phone and call them back. Doctors, emergency workers, and even business professionals relied on them throughout the 80s and 90s. For a while, having a pager clipped to your belt meant you were important, or at least, always on call. But as cell phones grew smarter, pagers lost their purpose and quietly faded from daily life. Speaking of portable devices, who could forget cassette tapes? Invented in the 1960s by a team led by Lou Ottens at Philips, these little plastic rectangles changed how the world listened to music. Inside each cassette were 2 tiny spools of magnetic tape that held hours of sound. The arrival of the Sony Walkman in 1979 made them even more iconic. You could finally take your music anywhere. People made mixtapes for friends, recorded songs off the radio, and carried their favorite albums in glove compartments and backpacks. But with the rise of CDs and digital music, cassettes slowly spun out of the spotlight. Today, they're nostalgic relics, collected by those who still love the hiss and warmth of analog sound. If you grew up in a house with a landline, you probably remember the answering machine. Before voicemail, this little box sat next to your telephone, waiting to record messages when you weren't home. The earliest versions appeared in the mid-1900s and worked using magnetic tape, similar to cassettes. For decades, they were a fixture of every household and office. You'd hear the beep, rewind the tape, and listen to your missed calls. But as phones became smarter and voicemail went digital, answering machines slowly became museum pieces. Before the smartphone ruled our pockets, there was another kind of handheld helper, the personal digital assistant, or PDA. These small electronic organizers let you store contacts, manage your schedule, and even take notes. Early models, like the Apple Newton in the 1990s, were cutting edge. By the early 2000s, PDAs could connect to the internet and use touchscreens, a glimpse of the future that was just around the corner. When smartphones arrived, they combined everything a PDA could do, and much more, making the once essential device obsolete almost overnight. Back in the day, if you wanted to find a plumber, a pizza place, or a local shop, you reached for the Yellow Pages. First created in the late 1800s, these thick yellow phone books listed businesses by category. They were in every home, every office, and every phone booth. Before search engines, this was how people found everything from mechanics to florists. But once the internet made it possible to search instantly, the yellow pages started to shrink, literally and figuratively. By 2019, the United Kingdom printed its final edition, closing the chapter on a once essential household item. Another invention that defined an era was the CRT television, the bulky, heavy screens that once filled our living rooms. CRT stands for cathode ray tube, a technology that fired electron beams at a glass screen to create images. It was ingenious for its time, but it came at a cost. These TVs were massive and power-hungry. By the early 2000s, flat-screen LCD and plasma TVs replaced them, offering lighter, sharper, and more efficient displays. Today, seeing an old CRT instantly brings back memories of childhood cartoons, VHS nights, and fuzzy static when the signal went out. And finally, one of the simplest yet most beloved office tools, the Rolodex. This spinning wheel of business cards sat proudly on desks everywhere. Invented in the 1950s, it let you flip through your contacts with ease. Before digital address books or smartphones, the Rolodex was the symbol of a well-connected professional. By the 1980s, having one stuffed full of cards meant you had made it in business. But as computers took over and contact lists went digital, the Rolodex joined the long list of forgotten office icons. These gadgets, VCRs, floppy disks, dial-up modems, and all the rest, may be gone, but they remind us how fast technology changes. Each one once felt like the future. Now, they're souvenirs of a world that moved a little slower, where every sound and click meant something real. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the next episode of the American Rewind. Because remembering where we've been helps us appreciate just how far we've come.